What's up, everybody? Welcome back into another episode of The Lawyer You Know. And hopefully, for the final time, Lori Vallow will be up on the screen. I can't say that for sure, right? She could have some kind of appeal or something happen to where you guys may have questions. We may talk about her again, but this is her final sentencing hearing. We're going to hear from a couple of the victims. We're going to describe some of how Arizona does it. I found something cool that we're going to read together about how the Arizona courts do victim impact statements. And we are also going to hear from the prosecutor what she thinks Lori Vallow deserves and what she wants to say about Lori Vallow. We are also going to hear from Lori Vallow Daybell herself, and get ready because it's pretty much just like every other time we've heard. It's a little mind-blowing, but my favorite part of the entire hearing is what the judge had to say. And we're going to watch that at the end and hear what he has to say about Lori Vallow and this case and how she handled herself. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Let's get to it. So it feels like, this quarter, the last month or two, whatever you want to call it, has been a closing chapter to so many cases, right? We had Karen Reed's case and P. Diddy's case and Kohberger's case, and we're having Lori Vallow's now sentencing right here. And it's a multiple case saga that is ending right here, right now. Sentencing is always brutal. Hearing from the victims is brutal, but it is an important part of the American criminal justice system and process. And from my perspective, it's really important to always remember what the purpose of sentencing is, what the purpose of these victim impact statements are. We talked about it yesterday with Brian Kohberger, and we're going to talk about it here for Lori Vallow. But before we get into what the victims had to say, I did want to put this up. I thought this was kind of cool. I found it. The Maricopa County in Arizona gives this little tip sheet to victims because so many victims have questions. What should I write in my victim impact statement? What can I say? What's the purpose of them? So this is to kind of help victims craft their statements. And I thought it would be kind of interesting to read before we hear from some of the victims. Focus on the impact of the crime on the victim and their loved ones, not on the offender. Okay, you're going to hear a lot of similarities for what we were reading in Idaho and from the federal rules, and you'll see that so many jurisdictions handle this the same. And you're also going to see some interaction here, and I'll tell you about some interaction where at one point, Kay Woodcock, who everybody knows at this point, Charles Vallow's sister, wants to turn to Lori Vallow Daybell and talk to her directly. We saw Kohberger. We saw that happen in his case as well. And Trina Kay, the prosecutor, came up, told her, you've got to look at the judge. You've got to address the judge. So the prosecutor stepped in. Judge didn't step in. Defense didn't object. But though there are parameters, right? And every judge handles their courtroom a little bit differently as how they're going to enforce these rules for sentencing. We saw that happen in this sentencing hearing. The offender will or has already had their quote unquote day in court. Use this opportunity to describe to the court the human impact the crime has had on the victim's family, friends, colleagues, and community. In particular, make sure to describe the physical, emotional, financial, social, and spiritual costs of the crime. Write about all the ways this crime has affected you or the victim, family members, friends, and the community. The effects could be financial, emotional, physical, social, or a combination. Describe the impact in detail. For example, if the crime affected you psychologically, explain specific ways. This is really interesting because in my kinds of cases where we have either wrongful death cases or car accident cases, we ask our clients or their family members similar things. How has this affected you? Because each case is very individualized. And as part of a civil trial, when you prove up damages, this is something the jury wants to hear and needs to hear in order to provide the appropriate damages for the loss that has been suffered. For me, just to say somebody had a surgery or somebody was tragically killed in this trucking accident and they made $100,000 a year, therefore they were supposed to live 10 more years, they're worth $1 million. That's not how it works, right? There's just so much more to it with all the relationships we have in our life, how it affects people physically, socially, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, all sorts of different aspects to these cases and the damages involved. And that's really what these victim impact statements are getting to. So they want specifics about it. How does this affect you specifically? And it's really hard for people to do that. It's really hard for people to put that into words. I work with hundreds and hundreds of clients every single year on this exact issue. And sometimes some of them don't want to make a big deal about it, or they don't want to seem like they're grasping for money, or they don't want to seem greedy, or they don't want to seem a certain way. So it's hard for them to really dig in and figure out how this affected them. We like to tell clients to journal every day. Write what you're thinking and what you're feeling, and we'll look through them. And, when we discuss this back, it'll be helpful to remember, because sometimes if it's a year later or many, many years later in this situation, sometimes it's hard to look back and remember what you were feeling, which is why, and I'm talking about all this because the strength and the organization it takes to go back there and organize your thoughts in a way that so many victims did in this case and so many other cases really is commendable. When you're describing financial impact, tell the judge about any incurred expenses such as medical and hospital bills, loss of income, and funeral expenses. We're going to hear a little bit of that. Mention how physical injuries impacted you, such as not being able to do the same job, or how your mobility is affected, whether you are able to live on your own or incurred any pain and suffering. Try not to rehash too many details of the crime, okay? It doesn't say you can't. It's not outlawing it. It says try not to rehash that. The court will hear or has already heard that information. The judge will have a copy of the probable cause statement. Okay, it's a little bit different. Focus on the victim impact statement should be on the victim. Tell the judge how the crime or incident affected your future. Explain what is different for you. This could involve how physical or psychological injuries continue to impact you. Describe how your life will be without a loved one. Mention how employment may be different or limited and how financial limitations may impact your future. So I found that to be very interesting and a little bit different than what I've read in other jurisdictions. So from my perspective, that's a good framework for how we get into some of these victim impact statements. I'm going to play just a couple victim impact statements just for time's sake. And I tried to focus on some that I had not heard before. Colby Ryan gave an amazing impact statement, and I've heard that he may be hospitalized or is sick of some sort. So I will be praying for his physical healing as well as the emotional and psychological healing for all the damage that Lori Vallow has truly done to him. And he put more of that on display about how she manipulated him, lied to him about his dad, and how those were kind of the final thoughts of his dad and how brutal that is. Like every time he speaks about what Lori Vallow has done to him, it hits different every time, right? Like it's so multifaceted and multi-layered. It's brutal. It's really, really brutal. Larry Woodcock made a statement and he went after her. He said, "You're a killer, psychopath, delusional. I won't call you by your name." He screams at her. "Turn around, look at Todd." Explains what she did to JJ, what she did to the kids. He took, the approach that this is my time. I'm going to yell at you and then I'm never going to speak your name again. Then I want to play this because I hadn't heard this. This is, I believe, and I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure based on what he says, this is JJ's biological father. So think about that. Think about the regret and the feeling he must have for decisions he made where JJ ends up in the care of Lori Vallow and dying at her hand. Think about the grief and misery that he must be going through in his life. And listen to the statement he gives. Like these are the ones that, man, really grab me in my core.
You're Todd Trahan?
Yes, sir.
And what would you like to tell me, sir?
I asked you to address Lori, if I can.
Go ahead.
Lori, Uncle Charles was a man of God, love. He knew God because he loved everybody around him. I trusted y'all with my family, the only son I had, because I couldn't give him the life that y'all could give him. I gave him up for y'all to raise him. I deal with the regret. I've dealt with the torment of making that choice. I'm here today to forgive you. I know what it's like to be in prison. I was in prison when y'all got the rights to my son. I know what it's like. Once you get done with this court and you go sit in that cell, you got to relive everything that you did. I hope.
Also a very different perspective than what we've heard from so many other victim impact statements. He's like, I've been where you are in prison. I know what it's like to think about it every day. I know what it's like. You're going to think about it. You're going to rehash all the mistakes you've made.
For you, that you understand the truth of what God did on the cross, because God died not only for me, he died for the unlovable. People that the world thinks shouldn't, they judge. I hope you understand the truth before you die. You still have a chance. You don't have to live evil the rest of your life. You can turn from that. You ask God to come into your life and show you his love, and it'll transform you. I want to thank the court for letting me get up here and say these things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I mean, I literally, it's like goosebumps. Like for that dude to get up there and say that, man, it is just to think about what he has got to be thinking about every day and what he's been through to be like, God saves me, who people think is unlovable. God can save you. Will he? I don't know. Hope he does. Hope she changes. Hope she turns around and comes around. But holy cow. I mean, that's powerful. That's really, really powerful stuff from the people that Lori Vallow affected and seemingly doesn't care about, right? Like it really seems like she doesn't care. Just wait till you hear her statement. Kino, first day of vacation. AC works great. I get to catch her live. Life is good. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I grew up Mormon. She is the product of believing the teachings literally as opposed to figuratively. She feels no remorse because she is called of God. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what she learned or what she thinks or believes about everything or what other people in her life do. But I know there are plenty of people in her life that explain it to her the right way. Okay. Like the way that man just explained it to her. That's what it's really about. It's not, I'm better than you because I crossed over and now listen to me and do whatever I say and give me your money or you're dark and you're going down. That's not what it's about, right? The way he described it is the way I believe it works. And my studies of the good book, that's what it sounds like to me. And that's, you know, the way he's able to do that to me is strength that is supernatural. Can the parole board take Lori M's conviction into consideration? And does that even happen if she's serving multiple life sentences? So we're going to talk about this a little bit when we get to life sentences stacked on top of each other. The fact that she has parole opportunities after 25 years, she ain't ever getting out. She's never getting out. I'll just tell you. I am LDS. I am disgusted that my faith was used to justify such evil acts. She acts like her beliefs are normal, but they're not. She perverted them. Yeah, I don't think there are very many people that say, wow, Lori Vallow has great beliefs. I'm with Lori Vallow. I believe the same way she does. You know, to me, I just don't think that that's something too many people, I hope not too many people think are mainstream or what everybody in any sect of a religion believes, but I don't know. Then we also did hear from, we heard from Susan, we heard from Kresha, we heard from Jerry Vallow, the Boudreaux parents and brother and sisters. We heard from Brandon's current wife and about how he has survivor guilt. I thought that was incredibly powerful. And then, of course, we heard from Kay Woodcock. We have played her witness testimony. We played her statements at other sentencing. It was as powerful as ever. She got emotional. She got loud and frustrated. She tried to turn and look Lori in the eye. Again, incredibly strong and powerful victim impact statement. Then she did something that I have never heard before. It reminded me of the Gabby Petito documentary where they AI'd her voice reading a letter. Kay Woodcock read a letter that she wrote from JJ's perspective and from JJ. And it was as gut-wrenching as you could ever imagine. And as she's reading the letter from JJ, I am hearing, or I'm thinking in my head, honestly, because they were putting the camera on Lori Vallow. And I'm thinking in my head, even if you truly believe in your heart of hearts, if you're Lori Vallow, even if you believe somebody else did this or it's somebody else's fault. You're not accountable. It wasn't at your hand. It wasn't a conspiracy. It wasn't Chad and you, whatever. Let's say she believes the narrative she's pushing. How does this still not break you to hear that from JJ's perspective? No, this was not AI. This was not AI. This was Kay Woodcock reading it in from JJ's point of view. The AI was in the Petito documentary. But literally no reaction. Like I was really trying to, I'm not one for I'm not a body language doctor or anything like that. I give people grace for the facial expressions they make as much as I can. Even Lori Vallow. I don't think she's going to surprise. I never think she's going to surprise me because I think I know how she is and what she's going to do. That surprised me. That truly did surprise me. But I think it was probably therapeutic for Kay to do that. And then I did want to listen to, this is still backwards, huh? I did want to listen to Brandon Boudreaux's statement. He was the surviving victim, the lone survival. Colby Ryan, I believe, is too, personally, even though there was no crime charged, to survive the wrath and carnage. And Lori Vallow Daybell pointing the finger at you as somebody who she wanted to take out. So let me see if I can find his statement here. He reads a letter from his sister first.
Had this heinous crime succeeded, my children would have been left to face a lifetime of grief, make it right. I obviously couldn't do that. I watched as my brother experienced the most horrible things and do so with grace, love, and humbleness that I don't know I would have.
I just realized it wasn't on the screen. Don't worry. I'm just trying to find my spot still. Okay, here we go.
It has come out of this closer, stronger, and more unified. We have held our tongues, never having spoken our truths, so as to allow the judicial system to do what it is designed to do, bring some justice to all of the victims. The big sister and me wanted nothing more than to take care of my little brother and his sweet children. I wanted nothing.
All right, let me skip ahead a little. This is his sister's statement, which was very nice. He read his sister's statement as well that she wrote.
Robbed of the love, stability, and spiritual guidance, and providing a foundation of love. Lori Daybell's actions sought to tear me from the sacred.
Yes, I know this is Brandon, but before he spoke, he read a letter that his sister wrote about her relationship with Brandon and what it was like watching Brandon go through this. So, sorry, it's still live, so it's hard for me to get the timestamps perfect.
Leaving my children without the father who serves them with unwavering devotion. Trust is something that is intangible. It can almost, excuse me. It can almost be measured in interactions with others by the speed and comfort with which we speak. We can see this inside our families. When it's present, it creates beautiful, safe spaces where human beings can grow and feel loved. As a father, I strive to cultivate this trust, fostering a haven where my children feel secure to grow and express themselves. Had I been killed, this trust would have been shattered, leaving my children vulnerable to fear, uncertainty, and struggling to rebuild the safety that they deserve.
And there was a lot of talk of Brandon Boudreaux's children. I'm trying to remember who said it. I think it may have been his wife that said, they are still in the custody of somebody that we believe is involved and is a co-conspirator with Lori, which is Lori's niece, Brandon's first wife, and the mother of his children. Sharing custody, still hasn't been charged with anything. And that's still part of all this. I mean, it's brutal.
I believe the family unit is ordained of God, and as such, it can be the most safe and sacred space we have in this life. I was raised in such a unit by parents who created this for me. And my life's greatest desire is that one day my children will look back and say that I created that for them. This divine calling gives me a drive to provide a nurturing and sacred environment for my children, mirroring the love I received. The choices that were made on October 2nd by Lori and others attempted to end my life. They threatened to rob my children of this God-ordained sanctuary, denying them the legacy and safety of love I strive to build. Research underscores devastating impact of losing a father in early childhood. 20 to 30% of bereaved children develop clinical depression or anxiety, grappling with abandonment. It can hinder their ability to form healthy relationships. My children would have faced these scars and many more. Their sense of security would have been destroyed. the violent act orchestrated by Lori would have taken this. Additionally, children who lose a parent experience academic setbacks, social withdrawal. Studies show that such children face socioeconomic challenges as adults, threatening the stable future I work tirelessly to provide. Besides my children, I have extended family for whom this conspiracy's toll I will never truly know. There's no measurement system for our grief, for our stress, for their pain and their trauma. They carry a burden that was no responsibility of their own. They're good people, all of them. But they showed up. They understood what family meant. They postponed work. They postponed life. They postponed fun. They even put out their own children and their own spouses. I had to ask them and their families to keep me safe and put them in jeopardy. I was scared to stay with them for months after they shot at me and kept trying to find me. I was continually pursued when I asked my new wife to marry me. I had to do so, knowing the burden I brought to our marriage. A life filled with unwanted attention, trauma, from a conspiracy I knew nothing about until I was almost too late. This burden will never go away, but we will learn to deal with it. We can never go back. We can't fix these things. There's no way to make right all the injustice and suffering that we've endured. So my greatest hope is that we can protect others from facing it. I hope those who participated can be removed from a place where they can have a chance to hurt anyone ever again in the future. No one deserves to live a life of fear and trauma. I have friends who stood up and put their lives on hold to help me and my children. I don't know how to convey to you the fear they must have felt to just be involved with me or around me. As others conspired and continued to come looking for me. I can't imagine the impact it had on them after the fact or during, and some of them had to distance themselves to keep their family safe. Finally, this overwhelming toll and conspiracy has had so much effect on those who are called upon to uphold our laws, and to those that I employed to try to protect my family. I would include attorneys, law enforcement, juries, yourself, your staff, all the people who have to deal with this. We've spent countless hours and precious resources from our community's taxes, mine and my family's personal finances, striving to prove exactly what happened, and most importantly, to keep children safe. All of this could have gotten more productive and beneficial things to help others, but it had to be diverted because of selfishness and self-centered conspirations. Your Honor, I'm a believer in forgiveness, and I believe it can be relieving for people to let go of the feelings that I've been describing, to give them away to their Savior, so that there's more room for good feelings and things that can come in this life. I try to practice this. I'm not perfect at it, but I have found relief in it. But I do not believe that this means that we can trust those who commit crimes to continue to have freedom that they had before.
And I really like that too. Like, we want to forgive, we want to hope for redemption, but that doesn't mean we trust him to live out in the world with us. I love that.
I choose to forgive Lori for myself so that I can be able to be a better father to those children I described. Be a better husband for my new wife. A better son and brother to these wonderful people who came. And a better neighbor and friend to those people who were there for me when I needed it most. But I have never seen any remorse or acknowledgement from Lori or any of her conspirators. Only denial, shaming, and accusation. I would never feel safe if she has freedom. I will always fear her for what she would try to do, again, to hurt my family. The trauma of this attack has already shaken my children's sense of safety. It's forced me to fight through pain, and it's forced me to work to restore trust for them in this life that we live. Lori's conspiracy was an assault on the essence of familia or selfless love. It's an assault on trust, and it's an assault on the divine sanctity of what a family is and what I grew up in. I would urge you to recognize this harm, this act that was intended to inflict pain upon myself, my family, my children, who deserve to grow up in a sacred, safe space. And I would ask you to protect us. As I let go of those angry feelings and all of those things, I would ask you to protect us, keep us safe, keep these people who deserve it safe. And I just ask that and thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I thought that was amazing. And he was one of the victims, right? Not victims' family. So many people victimized by Lori Vallow. One of the victims. Loved it. I feel like he knocked it out of the park, honestly. Like, that's what a victim impact statement is supposed to say. I mean, I shouldn't say like one is better than the other, but like, to me, I loved it. I loved it. I thought he did a great job. All right, let me jump ahead here. All right, now we're going to jump to Trina Kay's arguments. Now we're going to get into some of the legal arguments. Some of the things she asks for, which I found to be very interesting, right? Because everybody knows what the sentence is going to be. But she worked hard for these victims. She worked, because I've been in a situation where sometimes you do things that legally and practically and literally don't make a difference, but it makes people feel better. And it makes them feel like you're fighting for them, and you still can give them something like, good, we got a little bit more, we got this, screw her, like whatever, right? Or we feel more protected regardless of what's happening, because theoretically, if she wins an appeal in Idaho and she comes back to Arizona and it's after 25 years, she gets parole, or maybe even after 50 years, she gets parole, and then she comes after us, even if she's old, whatever, right? So they got some extra things here that Trina Kay argued for, and we'll hear what the judge says about that. I really appreciated. We're going to listen to some of her comments.
Vallow Daybell, in the jury trial for Charles Vallow, told the jury that the case and murder was about a family tragedy. In her next trial, she told the jury, again in the shooting of Brandon Boudreaux, that this was a tragedy. And while she's been in custody, she has agreed to speak to the media 4 times. And she has again spouted off that this was a family tragedy. A tragedy is a disastrous event.
It's so interesting because, when she says that stuff, we're all like, is that really what a family tragedy you caused? It's not an accident. And Trina Kay is going to go off on her.
Event, a calamity, a misfortune. Synonyms for tragedy are accident, catastrophe, disaster, misfortune, or mishap. A family tragedy does not involve premeditation. A family tragedy does not involve the intentional killing of a person. A family tragedy does not involve working with an accomplice to commit first-degree premeditated murder. And a family tragedy does not involve conspiring with others to kill. Lori Vallow Daybell has evoked the words family tragedy, but her actions show her to be a cold-blooded murderer. Even more disturbing than Lori Vallow Daybell's attempts to fashion the murder of her husband, Charles Vallow, and the shooting of her nephew-in-law, Brandon Boudreaux, as a tragedy is the way she has twisted religion and fashioned it as a justification for her actions. The reality is,
I feel like Trina Kay says a lot, because I'm not going to play the whole part where she talks about the victim's family again, because we got a lot of that from the other statements. But what she does, just like these 4 minutes in the beginning of her argument, is what so many people are thinking and feeling and want to say, and she says it, which I love.
this defendant is the same as every other murder defendant. The motives we usually see in murder cases, money, sex, are exactly what motivated this defendant.
Yeah, this is no religious warfare, spiritual warfare you're going through, Lori Vallow. This was the same motive, a tale as old as time: money, sex, power, greed.
For the murder of Charles and the attempted murder of Brandon. Although this defendant denies it, her text messages and her own actions show that these were her motives. Lori Vallow Daybell's motive for helping to try to kill Brandon Boudreaux was to help Melanie, the woman who called Lori Vallow mom and called Chad Daybell dad or daddy. Just like with Charles, Lori and Chad used their twisted religion to claim that Brandon was dark, possessed, and therefore his death would be justified. Brandon's death would have given Melanie money, The same motive as with Charles. The only difference was this money was for Lori's, quote, daughter, Melanie. The court has presided over these two trials and has heard all of the evidence. The court has accepted the verdicts from both juries. And this court accepted this defendant's admission of statutory aggravating factors in both cases. The presence
That's what Lori didn't even argue against and just kind of agreed to, which is great at this point.
of an accomplice, the use of a deadly weapon, and for Charles's trial, the infliction of emotional harm on Charles's family. The court is legally permitted to find any other aggravating factors and to give each of them the appropriate weight or value. Emotional harm is a very strong aggravating factor that exists for both Charles's family and Brandon and his family. But how do you give the appropriate weight or value to the aggravating factor of emotional harm? The defendant admitted it exists, but that doesn't provide this court with the facts to really weigh the harm that this defendant sentenced these families to. So I want to start first with Charles's family and their emotional harm. Charles Vallow has 5 siblings. He has nieces and nephews. He has 2 sons from his first marriage, Cole and Zach. He had JJ.
All right. So we're going to jump ahead a little bit just to get to the legal arguments because I want to hear everything the judge has to say, everything Lori Vallow has to say. It's just a couple minutes up from this.
Instead, this defendant FedExed Charles's ashes to Louisiana and housing. All the things she had to do to be here in this court. The total amount of restitution. This defendant damaged every one of Charles's family members.
All right. So now we're just going to get into some legal arguments where, again, we discussed multiple times in sentencing. A lot of it can do with the financial hardships you caused and restitution, if you're going to ask for restitution, and other things, which I love that Trina K did this.
Friends, when she helped orchestrate his murder. This court is in possession of lifetime injunctions for Susan Vallow, Jerry Vallow, and Kay Woodcock. The state asks that you sign those and serve them on the defendant. The state also provided to the defendant hard copies of the restitution requested by Kay Woodcock for travel, food, and housing. All the things she had to do to be here in this court. The total amount of restitution for Kay is $8,949.52.
$9,000 she had to spend to be a witness, to be a spectator, to make sure she was here for her family members that Lori Vallow damaged, killed, took away, right? Forget about what she had to do in Idaho, right? I mean, think about this, like how difficult this is for these people, right? Will she ever see $1 back from that? Maybe not. She probably doesn't care. But that is a reality of this justice system. And what else can you do, right? What else can you do? The state sometimes will get hotel rooms for witnesses and pay them, $15 or whatever it is per jurisdiction. But man, it's real. These stats are real.
The state asks that you order that restitution. The court also heard from Brandon Boudreaux and his family. Brandon survived his attack, but he suffered for months, fearing he would be killed. Brandon left Arizona to hide from Lori Vallow, Alex Cox, and Melanie Boudreaux Pulowski. Brandon is the person who tied this case to Charles's murder, and he alerted the police when he saw that Chad Daybell's wife had died, and he knew all of these things were connected. Imagine living in absolute fear that she could be shot and killed at any given time by people who were your family. Knowing a bullet had hit your car just a couple inches above your head. This is the emotional harm that this defendant thrust upon Brandon and his family. The court is in possession of lifetime injunctions for Brandon Boudreaux, and the state asks that you sign it and have it served upon the defendant. Brandon asked.
So I may have missed when she asked for it for the other victims like Kay Woodcock, but that was kind of the additional legal step. Lifetime injunctions. So Lori Vallow can never come anywhere near them. If she does, she'd be violating an injunction and committing another crime. Lori Vallow is going to be in prison the rest of her life. I'm very confident about that. But it's an extra step, extra layer of protection, extra legal step you can take, pushing hard and fighting hard for the victims, giving them every inch. What is it? What's the Any Given Sunday? Is that the Al Pacino football movie where he's like, it's about inches, every inch, you take every inch. And Trina K asked for it for all of these victims. We'll see if the judge gives it, but that's her continuing to fight for these victims. That's what it looks like. Andrea Burkhart posted on Twitter just how unbelievable the Karen Reed situation is and how law enforcement didn't cross their T's and dot their I's. And she was comparing it because she was looking through the Koberger documents. And she's like, here's a document where somebody wrote a report just to say that they were dropping off a phone charger or something like that. Go check her out and follow her on Twitter. But it's like the stark contrast between good law enforcement and bad law enforcement is just so different. And I will say there's a stark contrast between good prosecutors and bad prosecutors sometimes as well. And from my perspective, Trina K did it right. Whatever you want to say, some people didn't like her delivery or whatever it may be, fine, whatever. But from my perspective, this was going the extra mile for the victims, letting them know you're on their side. You don't represent them. They don't make your decisions for you. Of course, everybody knows that. But she is showing that she is here fighting for justice for them, which I appreciated.
Keep restitution open. You will be requesting that later. As I said earlier, the court has to weigh all of the aggravating factors that have been stipulated to by this defendant, all of the aggravating factors laid out in the state's sentencing memorandum, and the aggravating factors expressed to this court by the next of kin and victims against any alleged mitigating factors this defendant might present. There is no doubt that the aggravating factors substantially outweigh any alleged mitigation. The volume and weight of this defendant's actions and the aggravating factors support running each of these defendants' convictions consecutively to the others. Because of all of the aggravation, this defendant's actions, the state requests that this court run Brandon Boudreaux's case consecutively to Charles Vallow's case.
And that's also the additional element she can ask for, right? Running these sentences consecutively, stacking them on top of each other, life on top of life on top of life, right? Versus concurrently. Again, legally doesn't matter, practically doesn't matter, maybe, maybe not. This one actually does because she's got the possibility of parole after 25 years. But we're already talking about multiple life sentences in Idaho as well. So really, realistically, maybe it doesn't matter, maybe it doesn't make a difference, but it's just for posterity's sake, right? It's her showing of good faith and fighting hard for these victims.
And that these two
And I wouldn't necessarily blame a prosecutor if they didn't argue for that, but I like to see it.
conspiracy to commit first-degree murder convictions from Arizona be run consecutively to the sentences in the defendant's Idaho murder case, CR 22-21-1624. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Before we hear from Lori Vallow herself, let's answer some questions. What's the legalities for Kay filing a civil lawsuit regarding the Chandler PD for botched the first investigation? Perhaps JJ and Tylee would still be alive. I don't know all the facts around it, right? I don't know exactly what they did or didn't do, how they screwed up. Just looking at it from if you're just going to give me a hypothetical, say, Peter, you come into my office, you say, hey, Chandler police had that Lori Vallow ended the life of Charles Vallow with Alex Cox in a conspiracy. They had everything they needed to convict her. They dropped the ball. They screwed up. Then she went into the life of Tylee and JJ. To me, that is the making and the inner workings of the appropriate lawsuit. Now, every jurisdiction has different sovereign immunity rules and statutes of limitations and all sorts of different things that could throw wrenches into that. But when I just look at it like that in a simple hypothetical, it sure sounds like there should be some civil liability there. Perhaps one day someone will show her the way. She has been brainwashed. Jesus can still save her. I tend to agree with you. She's got a lot of people telling her the way and trying to show her the way here, seemingly in her family even. Same thing with the Koberger case. A lot of people there showing him Jesus. Goody. I used to think she actually believed the BS that she says. Now she's just trying to make herself look good in some sort of way. Actually believe the BS. She says now she's just evil. She's just evil. Yeah, I have no idea whether she believes it or not, but we're about to hear her statement. I don't know how this makes her look good. Like, who thinks she looks good after these statements? Who is she speaking to? Who does she think she's putting on for? Because from my perspective, she's just continuing to dig herself deeper and deeper and deeper. Will Lori Vallow Daybell conviction bolster the case for the arrest of Brandon's ex, Lori's niece? I don't know what connections they have. If that case ends up an indictment or an arrest for her and they start prosecuting her, I mean, if you guys are interested in that, if Melanie ends up getting indicted or arrested and you guys want me to cover it, I'm more than happy to. I don't know all the inner workings of the connection of what did she know, what did she not know. I know there were some other people that were in the inner circle that with the Idaho cases, people thought they should be investigated and indicted as well, and they haven't been. So I don't really know exactly what's going to happen, but that's definitely of interest to me if it does happen. I think everybody should be held accountable that had any hand in what happened or helping Lori Vallow construct this conspiracy, taking the lives of so many. All right. You might want to sit down for this.
Would the defendant like to address the court or present any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. Can I remain sitting?
Go ahead.
Representing myself at these 2 trials was a constitutional right that I exercised.
By the way, as she speaks and says some outlandish things, the judge is literally going to jump in and interrupt her and be like, no, it's not. That's wrong. That's not true. That's how you can tell this judge has had enough of Lori Vallow. And in case you still have any questions, wait around to hear what he has to say.
I could not have done so without my team. Annalena Ramirez, my paralegal, Jeff White, my investigator, and Pamela Hicks and Robert Abernathy, my advisory counsel. I acknowledge their diligence and hard work in helping me exercise that right. They worked tirelessly and I appreciate them. Representing myself, I have learned much about the law through this process, and I'm grateful for the knowledge that I have gained. Knowledge is eternal, and it is only love and the knowledge that we acquire in this life that we take with us into the next. I have studied the rules of law, case law, and the like. I was amazed and enlightened as my understandings were completely changed from before I started this process. Before this long court journey, I only had basic understanding of the judicial process. I was of the understanding that both parties would be able to get up at a trial and each tell their side of the story, but I soon learned that the rules of law do not allow that.
Actually, they do.
The process is
He's like, I'm not giving you this unfettered. We're not in trial anymore. You don't have the same rights. You can make your statement, but yes, they do. And here's what I'll say for Lori Vallow. It can absolutely feel that way as a criminal defendant sometimes, that it's not fair. It's not a fair playing field. The state definitely has the upper hand, all the resources. People automatically think somebody's guilty sitting in the chair. But in this case, this judge did not inappropriately do that to Lori Vallow. She wanted to present inadmissible, irrelevant evidence that was not appropriate. That's what happened. Okay. Did Trina K get to ask too many leading questions? Yes. Do we want to quibble and talk about some things like that? Sure. But it's not like this judge was like, oh, that's very relevant and important and admissible. I'm not going to let you tell your side of the story. She could have taken the stand and the judge would have let her literally get up there and say what she said to Nate Eaton and even more, right? What really happened? Lori, tell us what really happened. Let's see if a jury believes. He would have absolutely let her do that. And she didn't want to. Sleuthy Goosey said, this started out like an acceptance speech at the Grammys. It reminded me a little bit of the Diddy lawyers. They're like, hey, you come up here. You did a great job. Let me thank you. All these wonderful lawyers. I couldn't have done this without my team. That's what she said. It's like, it's like, what are you doing?
much more complex than that. It is not designed for that, although the Constitution of the United States was designed for that. The rules of law negate most of that. As a defendant, I was precluded from calling several witnesses. Other witnesses for the defense were precluded from testifying things that they did witness. As a defendant, I was precluded from asking law enforcement specific questions. I was also precluded from admitting documents that the state turned over to the defense as discovery. The founding fathers of this country did not intend for the rules and laws of trial that have been implemented into this justice system to make it impossible for the accused to defend themselves. Their objective was quite the opposite. They advocated for a fair and impartial and speedy trial. It was never their intention for people to be sitting in jail for years and years waiting to be tried while the state continues to try to gather new evidence against them. This is what our injustice system has become.
Our injustice system. This is what our injustice system has become. And again, there are problems. There are cases that are major problems. We point that out. We highlight that. We talk about that. We try to push against that. We try to bring awareness. We try to shine a light in the darkness. You know, I'm all for that, but in proper context. And the way, and she is one of those situations where it's like, you ruin it for the rest of them. Okay. Because you chose a lot of your problems and representing yourself, speedy trial, all of this, you chose so many of your own problems. And so many other criminal defendants do not create the problems like you do.
Women sitting in jail for years and waiting to be heard. The constitutional right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness thwarted. My case is not unique. There are many here in Maricopa County that have been in jail almost 10 years waiting to be tried. The conditions of this jail are not for long-term confinement. You do not have access to direct medical care. You do not have access to proper nutrition. You do not have access to sunlight. You do not have access to decent dental care. In fact, when you have been in Maricopa County Jail for 1 year, they come to your door and offer you a vitamin D supplement because you have not been in the sun in a year. Imagine this for years. It is inhumane. The state of Arizona, according to the laws, since I am a prisoner from another state, only had 90 days in which to give me 2 speedy trials. That's 3 months. I arrived here at MCSO on November 30th, 2023. That is over a year and a half, 20 months specifically. That is over 6 times the amount of time it should have taken for me to have these 2 trials. But Arizona leaves this law up to the judge's discretion, and the judge has the power to extend your trial at his will. Even though the 6th and 14th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States proclaims otherwise. 98% of all cases in Maricopa County end in plea deals where the accused plead guilty. And I'll tell you why.
Again, and we can all debate this and what she's saying as far as prison conditions, jail conditions. It's horrible. And I get people saying, well, then don't commit crimes. I get it. But there are people that get wrongfully arrested, or they get arrested and can't post a very small bond and are in there when they shouldn't be. And they're getting caught in the crosshairs. There are people that get wrongfully convicted. Obviously, there are people that take plea deals that are really innocent. There's all sorts of problems. A socioeconomic divide. If you're rich, you don't have to deal with this. If you're poor, you do. There are very legitimate conversations to be had about this and reform that could help and things we can always do better. Okay. No doubt about it. I absolutely agree with that. The problem is it's kind of like the message sometimes can get lost because of the messenger. And I think that's what's happening here. But that doesn't mean everything she's saying is wrong.
It's so miserable in that jail that they plead guilty so they can go to the prison and have decent food, decent sunlight, and a chance to live. 2% of all cases in Maricopa County that actually do go to trial, of all the cases that actually do go to trial, only 0.2 end in acquittal. That is 1 out of 1,200 people who go to trial go home.
That's actually not the correct stat.
I don't mean to laugh. I shouldn't laugh at sentencing hearings. This judge, to me, his personality, this judge seems like somebody I could go back and forth with, making fun of each other. That's what I do with my friends. We kind of just make fun of each other and quick-witted stuff. That's what I like. He seems funny. He seems funny. He seems like he doesn't give an inch. He's like, that stat is actually wrong. And what I'll say is, I don't know if that stat is right or wrong. I haven't studied the stats in her jurisdiction. That would make her stat very different from most jurisdictions, that out of 1,200 trials, there's 1 not guilty verdict. You got to realize when you get into these types of charges, yes, the vast majority of men in conviction, but when you're taking all trials, including misdemeanors, plenty of misdemeanors end in not guilty, right? DUIs, possession of a small amount of drugs, battery, domestic violence, where the victim doesn't want to cooperate, so they lose their star witness in the middle of trial. Stuff happens. 1 out of 1,200 seems incredibly low. I would say I have a hard time believing that. The judge piping in saying that's not a correct stat. So I don't know. Do jurisdictions really have that many trials? Did she say over a period of time? I may have missed it, but I don't really care. If you're saying every 1,200 trials, whether it takes 5 years or 2 years, and yes, some jurisdictions have so many more trials than you could ever imagine. It's crazy. When I was a prosecutor handling the very bare bottom of the barrel misdemeanor cases, I could try 3 cases in a week. And so there are tons of trials going on all the time. But if there's only 1 acquittal every 1,200 trials, that's impossible. Impossible.
Is that a system designed to convict you? The rules of law governing trial assure
I do
that.
agree. It's a system designed to convict. That's why I push so hard for the criminal defendant's right and the right to a fair trial. So I do believe sometimes it absolutely feels like a system designed to convict.
As you witnessed in my 2 cases, the judge supports the state to achieve this outcome. So here
And
we are.
obviously he disagrees with that, but we have felt that watching cases before. I have felt that trying cases before that the judge supports the state.
The state of Arizona has accomplished its intention. 1, to extradite me from Idaho. 2, to convict me. And 3, to add to my ledger of lifetimes. The state used countless taxpayers' money to transport me, house me, millions of dollars to wrongly convict me on 2 charges that they made sure judicially that I could not defend myself against. I know political aspirations, raises, and job promotions were at stake. So congratulations. I was convicted in the media long before I went to trial. We all know that there was no way for me to come to Arizona and get a fair, impartial, or speedy trial. And now that fact has been proven. The state of Arizona brought me here when I was already serving 5 life sentences. Now I will serve 7 life sentences. Will that be enough? Will that be enough? I want everyone to know that I mourn with all of you. I am sorry for your pain.
Now, this is the stuff where, like, if the victims would have got up and walked out, I wouldn't have blamed them. This is the stuff that really felt like it twisted the knife when she's like, I mourn with you. It's like, didn't seem like it. It didn't feel like it.
Losing those close to you is painful, and I acknowledge all of the pain, and I do empathize. I feel it too. If I was accountable for these crimes, I would acknowledge it, and I would let you know how sorry I was. But I have witnessed for myself what it is like to leave this mortal existence and return home when I temporarily died in the hospital giving birth to my daughter, Tylee.
And here's another. This is just the go-to justification that, she likes it. This is what raises her above, right? That's why she's bringing it up. It's like, I'm up here, you're down here because I had this experience. And you can't tell me I didn't have this experience and that it didn't, change the way I see everything.
Our spirit leaves our body and we return to the pure energy state in the spirit world. We immediately no longer feel hate, anger, envy, or resentment. I promise you. We come to earth to experience these emotions, but these emotions are immediately replaced by a blissful, heightened sense of peace, love, joy, and well-being. The moment our spirit leaves our body, we feel more alive than we ever did on earth. And we have deep empathy for those we have left behind. We do not want our loved ones to grieve or be sad. We know that they will because that's a mortal experience, but they come to comfort us. We immediately know the minute you leave your body, you are aware of who you are, why you came to earth, and that we will all be together again soon, and that this separation is only temporary. All of the cares and pressures and problems immediately melt away. And after comforting our loved ones, we move on with our eternal life, continuing to pursue knowledge and wisdom and understanding in eternal progression. Heaven is a very busy and happy place where everyone is engaged in projects that they love to do. That includes Joshua, that includes Tylee, that includes Tammy, that includes Charles. No one there, none of these people are seeking revenge or justice. So although we miss our loved ones, and I do too, I assure you that they are busy and happy and peaceful. I have felt the kind of contentment that they feel now, and I try to duplicate that here. So whether I'm giving 5 life sentences or 7 life sentences, I will continue to try to uplift and help and strengthen those around me. It does not matter where you serve on earth as long as you do it with love. It doesn't matter if I'm given 7 lifetimes or the death penalty like my husband. What things look impossible to man are easy for Jesus. Jesus tells us in the Bible not to judge, but this whole entire justice system is just that. So I want you to watch, because God will show the world great miracles. I will continue to love everyone I come in contact with, and I will turn this battle over to God. If this is God's battle, then the math doesn't matter. 7 lifetimes or the death penalty doesn't matter. God's miracles will abound. When a soldier goes off to war, he is a soldier. When a soldier comes back from war, he is a warrior. And Jesus is in the prisons. He is turning his soldiers into warriors. For the prisoners shall go free. Sometimes victory doesn't look like victory until it's finished. Prisoners who have been told that they will never go free will be free. And I want you to expect miracles, and I want you to watch for them, because you will see. We fear not what man can do, because God's warriors surround us. When the battle
So just as she's going on, and I'm sure half people are just like muting this or fast forwarding it. We did have a client one time who, not to the level of Lori Vallow, it was a financial crime. She was stealing from people, eventually got convicted. It was Pete Sardis's case, but there were people that would say things like, she's going to get released from prison on this date, and would write like the date and then cross it out and send us a new one. And you could like literally see the first date, the second date, the third date, the fourth date. So she's like, keep an eye out for these miracles. It's like, we're keeping an eye out, Lori, we're keeping an eye out. And I believe in miracles. I don't think this is going to be one of them. I could be wrong, right? Could be wrong. I don't think this is going to be one of them, but that's what she's doing. And she says it in like, she's one of those people that it's like, you wouldn't understand. I can't even tell you, because you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't understand. You weren't there. You had to be there. She's one of those, right? She's one of those.
is relentless, and this one has been for over 6 years. Remember, God is building his army of warriors in the prison system. He is turning Sauls into Pauls. When Jesus is sending his servants into the prisons to prepare his warrior team,
There's just so many things, right? This is not like a debate. I don't need to respond to Lori Vallow, but I do feel like I need to say, I think, if you want my opinion, they would look more like JJ's biological father, people being saved in prison, and act like him versus acting like Lori Vallow.
he will be there only until this purpose is complete, and then the warriors will walk free. We are redeemed by Jesus Christ, so we are free right now, but his chains will break. Prison walls will fall. The power and majesty of God will be revealed. When Jesus is ready, he will call his warriors from the prisons, and we will walk free, and we will serve him. I will quote Moroni, the great prophet, from Moroni 8:16, and he says, "Behold, I speak with boldness, having authority from God. I fear not what man can do, for perfect love casteth out all fear." And in Ether, Moroni says, "And now, if I have no authority for these things, judge ye. For ye shall know that I have authority when ye shall see me, and we shall stand before God at the last day."
It does, like, some people are, people are saying she's very adept at distorting Christian teaching. Stop misinterpreting the word. I mean, that's just like literally her specialty. You can imagine what she's like in prison, right? Like, she's going to try to rally her 144,000 in the prison walls. Like this, she's like, great. All these women captivated by me. They got nothing else to do. I'll tell them what they want to hear. I'll get them in with me. I'll get them to worship me. I mean, it's diabolical. Keno, according to the M County attorney, it's 8,454 out of 44,500 cases resulted in conviction or plea in 2023. So not one of them resulted in conviction or plea. I think what you mean, and I shouldn't guess, but I think you mean 8,000 not guilty or acquitted or charges dropped out of 40. There's no way that there's only 8,000 convictions or pleas out of 44,000. That would put like 80% of people are not guilty. So maybe it's flipped and it's around 20%. If my math is not terrible, I'm thinking 10,000 out of 50,000 is 20%. That's how I would do the quick math. It's a little less than 20%. I think maybe 18%. But so that would track close. That's a little higher maybe than I would have thought, but 18% end in charges being dropped or not guilty verdicts. That would make sense again, because you got to think about all the misdemeanors. There's a lot more misdemeanor trials than felony trials in most jurisdictions. I worry about the other women in prison she might influence, and those women might get out someday, even if Lori Vallow Daybell doesn't. Now, that's a good point. Creating warriors to go out there and fight for Lori Vallow. She's got brass saying that prison is inhumane after what she did to her kids. She's whining about getting one vitamin D. She's a head case. Yeah. Again, it's not easy for the victims to listen to this, I'm sure. If lifetimes don't matter in jail, if lifetimes in jail don't matter or the death penalty because of God's miracles, then why go to trial? Why fight to remove the death penalty in the Idaho case? I believe in miracles, but this is BS. Oof, yeah, it's a tough listen. But, it's not a tough listen is Judge B. And we get to hear what he has to say about this and what he is going to do, what decisions he is going to make as far as Lori Vallow's sentence. Will he go further about these injunctions? Will he give her the maximum fines, which he can do? Will he order restitution? What decisions will he stack them consecutively versus concurrently? Those are all questions left unanswered at this point. Let's hear what Judge Bresky has to say.
Do you have anything else?
By the way, we've got an hour here. We're going a little bit longer, probably another 10 or 15 minutes here. So hit that like button, stick around. We're going to work through this. It's been a sad week. It's been a brutal week. I'm hoping if John gets something done that we'll do something fun after this, at least on my stream here together. If not, then maybe we'll do it later. But I appreciate you guys hanging in with me. I know this stuff is brutal. It is nice to close the chapter and see how these victims are dealing with it and moving forward. And it's also nice to hear what the judges think about these cases as well.
In this day and age where truth seems to matter little to our talking heads on the news and to our politicians, I'm proud that this trial court and through our jury trials, we draw on the collective wisdom of jurors to determine the truth.
You like that? Little pot shot. It's like the media, the world might not care about truth, but here in court, truth matters. And I always thought that was funny. It's like, think about the things people say on political shows, podcasts, whatever, what their truth is or whatever, right? People want to argue about these things. And then think about court. You can't just go into court and say, I think I'm a cat. Or you can't just go in court and say, no, that couldn't be me. We hear people do that. We hear people like Lori Vallow do that. That's not true. I crossed over. I see things differently. You don't get it. I see them as a zombie. Some people in the world, I feel like, would be like, okay, let's let her believe that. That's fine. Not in court, right? Not in court. In court, he said it. We draw on the wisdom of the jury and the truth. The truth. Yes, I'm not a cat judge. It comes from that lawyer thing. That's where my mind popped to. So I loved that. I loved that.
As I said in my jury instructions to the jury, it is their job to determine the truth. The defendant spent several minutes talking about statistics and being prevented from presenting her side, and that is not the truth. Maricopa County is a court of innovation. We virtually screened hundreds of jurors, and we kicked off jurors from service that had ever even heard of Lori Vallow. So when she says that she couldn't get a fair trial in Maricopa County, that is not the truth. Your cases.
And he's like, now's my time to make sure I highlight and speak what the truth is. Because you just said a bunch of things that were wrong. And that's why he jumped in. Theoretically, probably shouldn't have jumped in, right? Let her say her piece. And even if she's saying things that aren't true, it's not like she was cursing or yelling at the court or saying something that's inappropriate. But he jumped in and corrected her at the moment. And he's jumping in now saying, I'll tell you what the truth is. The truth is you got a fair trial here.
Involved 24 separate jurors who deliberated and reached verdicts on these two cases. They represent a broad cross-section of society, which means these two verdicts represent the decisions of our community, not the view of a single person, not the view of a single prosecutor, and not the view of a judge. The collective decision-making of juries helps to reduce individual biases and errors in judgment. 12 jurors in the first case unanimously agreed that proof beyond a reasonable doubt established you conspired to kill Charles Vallow. And 12 separate jurors in the second case, again with no prior knowledge of you whatsoever, no knowledge of your notoriety, unanimously agreed you conspired to have Brandon Boudreaux killed. Many people have asked why the state bothered to extradite you and bring you to Arizona, given the sentences that you received in Idaho. Trials are not just about seeking accountability or punishment from those who have committed crimes, but to give the victims of crimes justice and acknowledgement of the impact of being a victim. Justice demands not only recognition of the pain inflicted, but a firm response that upholds the dignity of every victim harmed by the actions of someone who has shown blatant disregard for humanity. You've left a wake of destruction stretching from Louisiana, across Texas, Arizona, up to Idaho and back again. Anytime a person victimizes a single individual, the ripple effects of their actions extend far beyond the immediate harm. And you have not victimized just a single victim, but many. You've shattered lives, you've undermined trust, you've sowed fear in the hearts of many. I can't imagine what Brandon and his family went through for those months, hiding. Charles,
I've also seen a lot of lawyers and judges get choked up making their statements, and I think he is too. I think he's getting choked up, which is interesting. Like, they feel this, right? We're not robots, lawyers and judges. We're human beings. We have family members too.
his family wondering who's next. Is someone coming for them? Jenny said a lot of the things I was already going to say to you, Brandon. I'll just touch on a couple of
That's nice too. I mean, that's giving credit to the victim impact statements.
them. I had wondered during the trial whether you suffer from survivor's guilt, and she confirmed that for me today. I also remember looking at you in the back of the courtroom trial, and just, you have this look about you of a wounded individual. I hope you can heal someday. To Charles's family, I just want to share with you that I'm sorry for your loss. Charles seemed like a great all-around guy. One of the exhibits that was put up during the first trial, I noticed something. He and I share the same birthday. So I'll remember him on my birthday.
You could tell. Like, I could feel that from him, right?
I've seen many, many cases in my career where someone faces a long prison sentence for what amounted to one split-second bad decision. You are not that person. The amount of contemplation, calculation, planning, manipulation that went into these crimes is unparalleled in my career. Your powers of manipulation are profoundly destructive, one that undermines trust, distorts truth, and can erode the very foundations of healthy relationships and society. The impact of your manipulation has been devastating, insidious, and far-reaching, and perhaps still unknown. One can't help but wonder if
Perhaps still unknown.
far-reaching, and perhaps still unknown. One can't help but wonder if Alex died as a result of the extraordinary burdens that you placed upon him. No one will ever know.
Giving a little window into how he sees the facts, right? Because I know some people are saying, some people in the victim impact statement said, we still think you're responsible for Alex's death, or that you ended Alex's life or whatever. And he's like, maybe you did it. Maybe you gave him something, poison or whatever, or maybe it was just the stress you put on him, the burden you put on him to carry out these vile, evil acts on your behalf, so you could get money, so you could get power, so you could get with the man you wanted to be with. Oof. People are saying, and Joe Ryan. Yeah, it's...
You preyed on the vulnerability of those around you, JJ, Tylee, Alex, Melanie, others. And today I heard about Colby. You specialize in exploiting the empathy and goodwill of others, turning those virtues into tools of control and harm. I think that over time, as a result of being subjected to your manipulation, those people lost their sense of self and their ability to distinguish truth from falsehood. In the face of such profound damage, a long prison sentence is not merely a punishment. It is a necessary affirmation that our society values justice, protection, and the sanctity of human life. You just referenced a Bible verse or a verse recently about the prisoners shall go free. That is not a literal verse. That is a verse about people that accept Jesus can be in prison and they will go free when they die and go to heaven. But it will take...
Yeah, or a prisoner to your sin and being set free, or to something bad happening in your life and being set free. Not, like he said, that doesn't literally mean everybody in prison is going to go free. But guess what? If Lori Vallow is convincing enough and she's telling all of her fellow prisoners that's what's going to happen, do you think that's going to make them like her and trust her and come to her? Oh, she says she's got a way for us to get free. Manipulation. The misery that she is giving off with what she is saying. So he's like, no. Don't try that. Manipulation here.
Just referenced a Bible verse or a verse recently about the prisoners shall go free. That is not a literal verse. That is a verse about people that accept Jesus can be in prison and they will go free when they die and go to heaven. But it will take an act of God for you to go free. In short, you should never be released from prison. Eventually, the camera that you seek out so much, the media requests, will lessen over time and you'll fade into obscurity. The state has requested that I find additional aggravation. The court does find that in CR 2021-001704, the offense was committed in the expectation that you would receive pecuniary gain.
Yeah, I mean, all the aggravating factors, whether she would have agreed with them or not, doesn't really matter. He's going to give them, right? And they were going to be able to prove them. So it really didn't matter that she waived that argument. This is funny. Your champions are supposed to, at Laura, Peter, this is John Fisher from Civil Rules, literally in a marketing meeting. And we saw your channel as inspiration. And I was like, I know this guy. Going to hit you up soon. Hit me up, John. I know this guy. That's funny, right? With the name that we ended up coming up with. John is on Civil Rules, where we're trying to make the civil justice system better in Florida. It's not perfect. We're trying to fight the good fight and make it better. I turned off because I was on the Civil Rules section as long as I could. And I'll be joining another one here soon to continue to fight the good fight. John, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for commenting. Sidebar, did you know the Florida Little League softball team made it out of the losers bracket to make it to the World Series, the big show, first time ever in St. Mary, Florida? That's awesome. Kudos to our Florida Little League softball team. Way to go, ladies.
In the CR 2022-001242 case, the court finds the emotional harm suffered by Brandon and his family to be immeasurable. The sentences on those aggravating factors alone will be justified. The state also asked to find an aggravating factor of a prior felony conviction within 10 years of this offense. However, I'm hesitant to do that just because of the way that statute reads, that the offense had to be committed before the date of the offense on these two crimes, which it wasn't. So the court will decline to find that aggravating factor. However,
even though the state asked for it, even though Lori Vallow didn't fight it, he's like, I'm going to decline that one because of the dates and the way the statute's written. It's probably not right. That's a good judge. That's a good judge. And that's showing that he's not just fighting the state's battles for them, right? And this is what judges should do. They should look, they should take arguments. They should not insert themselves when they see something that is legally wrong or incorrect. You should not let it go, even if one side doesn't object. And that's what I was saying he could have done a couple times during trial.
as I said, the substantial amount of harm to the victims and the victim's family, emotional, financial, and otherwise, are immeasurable and justifies consecutive sentences. Ms. Vallow, what's your position on Ms. Woodcock's restitution request of $8,949.52?
I just received it from my advisory council and I'd like to get a chance to look at it. So I know that the restitution from Brandon hasn't been turned in yet. So we'll look at that and I can discuss it with my advisory council.
So he asked, does she have an objection basically to that amount of restitution? And she's saying, I haven't seen it. I just got it. I want to look at it. I want to look at it with advisory council. And she's actually right. Not a bad argument that we don't even have Brandon's yet because they said they're going to produce Brandon's later. So what's the rush right now to make the decision on this? Give me Brandon's. Let me take a look at Kay's. Let me see if I have any objections to them. Legally, all of this is appropriate. If she has an objection, she can make an objection. And basically it's like, this shouldn't be covered in restitution because she, stayed at the Ritz-Carlton instead of, Howard Johnson or whatever. I don't know. But you can make objections to restitution if you want. Will it end up mattering? I don't know. But just wait till you hear the sentence the judge gives with the fines and stuff.
Would you want to waive your appearance for a restitution hearing in the future?
He's like, would you want to waive? Meaning he wants her to waive, and you'll hear why.
And have your counsel handle that?
I don't see why I couldn't appear by Zoom.
And she's like, I don't want to waive my appearance. I get where you're coming with this, judge, but I can at least appear by Zoom. Fox said, how do they even get paid? She doesn't have any money, does she? Right. So if she comes into money somehow, they can try to get that. Different jurisdictions say a percentage of what's in your commissary they could potentially get their hands on. But this is all theoretical, right? Usually it doesn't get paid. And in that victim impact tips that I was reading, I think it was that one. I've read so many of them now. They even say, just because we put this down for restitution, just because the judge orders restitution doesn't mean it's going to get paid. So just realize that there are some victim funds in different jurisdictions, but in the criminal justice system, restitution almost never gets paid, especially in its entirety. The civil justice system can produce a lot more of that. Northwest said Idaho will take 20% of commissary. Thank you for that. The restitution comes from what they can prove she caused them financial harm that she caused. And again, it can come from money she has. Some people do have a lot of money when they go to prison. Or it can come from, like they said, garnishing their commissary, basically.
I think my request would be just to leave, not waive her appearance at this time, but if there ends up being some restitution hearing, I can reach out to her and decide if she wants to be here for that.
I'm not going to have her extradited from Idaho for a restitution hearing if she wants to.
He's like, I'm not going to waste more taxpayer dollars flying her here from Idaho where she's in prison there just for a restitution hearing.
Appear. So
Seems
that's
pretty simple to let her appear by Zoom.
my issue here. She may be able to appear virtually. I don't know.
Because at this time, we don't have the restitution from Mr. Boudreaux, so.
All right. I'm going to set a status conference regarding restitution as to Kay Woodcock. We'll set that in a few moments. If you agree to it prior to that date, we'll vacate it. If not, we'll have to talk about setting a restitution hearing. The court will also, at the request of Brandon Boudreaux, issue a lifetime injunction that prevents you from having any form of contact whatsoever with him for the rest of your life. The court will also issue an injunction on behalf of Susan Vallow, Kay Woodcock, and Jerry Vallow that likewise prohibits you from having any form of contact with them for the rest of your life. You'll be served with those injunctions later today. In each case, it's ordered that you pay a $9 victim compensation fund assessment, a $20 probation assessment, a $2 victims' rights enforcement assessment, and a $13 criminal penalty assessment. Although it's largely symbolic, the court's going to impose the maximum fine allowable for each case. It's ordered that you pay $150,000 fine plus a 78% surcharge on each case. Those total fines on each case is $267,000. I know the loss
$267,000 in fines, I think he said there.
says that you can't financially benefit off your crimes, but in the event that somehow you did, those restitution amounts or those fine amounts are out there that can be paid. As to count 1 in CR 2021-001704.
And again, other ways this could come up, like, okay, again, she gets the convictions overturned in Idaho and completely thrown out. Okay, great. She serves 25 years and goes up for the parole board. If she still owes all this money, that could be something that would not allow her to get out. Things like that.
Court orders you to be sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after serving 25 calendar years. This sentence would run consecutively to the District Court of the 7th Judicial District of the State of Idaho in Fremont County, case number CR 20.
So she got life, the max, which is 25 years at least before parole. Doesn't mean she would get out after 25 years, just the possibility of it. And we're going to do it consecutive. It's going to stack on top of the Idaho lives.
2-21-1624. As to count 1 in CR 00124-2-001, it's ordered that you be sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after serving 25 calendar years. That sentence also, due to the number of victims you've created in the two cases, the immeasurable harm you've inflicted on many, it's ordered that that run consecutive to CR 2021-00.
He's like, all these people's lives you've ruined and touched and horrified. We're running that consecutive too. He's given reasons on the record. Why? Why are these running all consecutively?
1704. Because these sentences are consecutive to one another and consecutive to the Idaho case in which you are currently serving a sentence, you're giving 0 days credit for time served. You have the right to appeal from the orders of the court and to have a lawyer represent you. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed for you. If instead you want to represent yourself in your appeal, you must file a written waiver no later than 30 days after the filing of your notice of appeal. If you cannot afford copies of the necessary records and transcripts, they would be provided for you at no cost. If you want to appeal, you must file a notice of appeal within 20 days of today, or you lose that right. If you want to petition for post-conviction of relief, you must file a notice within 90 days from today, or within 30 days after the appellate court issues a mandate affirming the judgment and sentence in your direct appeal, whichever is later, or you would lose that right as well. It's ordered remanding you to the custody department.
John, it really is something, right? It really is something that I just don't feel like we have. Actually, we saw her get upset one time, if you remember. She got upset when they wanted to go after Chad Daybell in closing in the Idaho case, right? That's all I can remember.
Corrections effective today to carry out those sentences. We're at recess.
All right. I did want to see if, let's see Kay Woodcock's. Oh, Brandon's. Let's see Brandon's, what he says at the presser here. And they're happy, right? Because I mean, they're not happy about what happened. They're not happy about being involved, but they are happy it's over, right? They can close this chapter.
I think I shared what I had to say in there. So, but we appreciate all of you guys who've shared our story over the last 6 years. We want to know, want everyone to know we're grateful that our justice system worked. So, you have anything you want to add?
My name's Jerry Vallow. It's Charles's brother. Well, I am Charles's brother. And this is over, and it's done. She got what she earned, and she's going to spend the rest of her life in prison. If she ever gets loose in Idaho, she comes here to finish. So the bitch is done, and it's over. That's it.
Somebody said to watch Lori leave court. Okay, hold on. Let's see her leave.
Lori, right in prison. You can't do that. Let's go. Everyone out now.
Lori rot in prison, she said, and then she just winked back. Oof. Whatever, right? Whatever. Who will give her commissary? So again, you would be surprised the people that are given money in prison after what they've done. She seems like the type to have a following or somebody be interested in her, male or female, potentially. Maybe Melanie, I don't know. Maybe she still has some supporters in her family. I don't know, but I would think she's going to have some money in her commissary. Let's see if anybody else makes a statement here. We want to see. All right, let's see what Kay has to say. Kay and then JJ's dad.
I'm sorry, you had to deal with it. Yeah, really. That's. We are so glad to say our mission is accomplished after 6.5 years of her hell. We're done. And I never have to see her again, talk to her again. She can never call me, and I won't be calling her. And God bless Charles and JJ and Tylee and Tammy. And I thank Lori for being such a stupid criminal. And Chad. Her and Chad. Stupid criminals.
What do you think of her impact statement today?
It was the same, like the interview last night. It was just regurgitated from her interviews before. That's all she does. It's just regurgitation. And I'm like, I wasn't going to watch it. And I'm like, it's short. So I did. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I thought she'd say.
What do you think of the judge's statement to her?
I love Judge Boreski, and I think he did great. And
Victims should love the judge and the prosecutor. We always talk about it. Same thing with the jurors. They usually love the judge and love the prosecutor.
I don't think we could have had a better judge. And he's a better man than a lot of people putting up with her like he did. I'd have had to hurt her earlier, way before he said anything. But anyway, that's why I'm not a judge.
Do you think she'll ever take responsibility for what she did?
No, never. She will never. And they say never, but I'm saying never. She won't. She will not. And even if she did, what is the truth? Does she even know it? Or she would fabricate it and guess her way. I don't know. It really doesn't matter. That's not anything I think about or talk about or care about. But I really don't have a lot to say, guys. We've got some things to do. But this is my son, Todd Trahan. This is JJ's biological dad. And I'll scoot up a little bit more. And he just wanted to say something real quick.
7 life sentences. It's the number of completion. She got what she wanted. I'm going to see him again one day. Thank y'all.
All right, guys. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.
All right, let me see if there's anything else. Nate Eaton pops on. All right, so that's it. Lori Vallow, done. We can close the book on her. I do want to mention something here at the end. Hi, Peter. How did your nephew do with the challenge? So it's been a brutal couple of days and a couple of, not for myself personally, but just dealing with the sentencing in the Koberger case, sentencing in Lori Vallow's case. It's brutal. It's sad. It's not something that's fun to talk about, right? But it's important. It's an important part of the process. It's kind of the last step in the process, except for appeals, of course, because the law is seemingly never ending. But we are going to release the rest of that video today. If any of you guys saw it, I bet my nephew, George, because he was talking about it on our Greece trip, like, oh, I could raw dog. Okay. Means something different than it used to. An airplane ride, and no electronics, no books, no nothing. So I said, absolutely no shot. Could you ever do that? And he said, yes, I can. I was like, I'll put $500 on it that you can't do it. And so he accepted, and we did a little video of it. And so Kimberly asked, did George win the bet or get some money? We are going to release it on all our social medias and our shorts channel. But I think I'm also tonight going to do a little live reaction to it. I think John is going to post it now. Let me see here if he is. So we're going to post it as another video, so people will get redirected into that video. If you want to watch it, of course, you don't have to. You can sign off now. This is not going to be a legal video. It's just going to be a short kind of fun. The video of George is only like 5 minutes. But I'll be reacting to you, giving you my thoughts, what I thought was going to happen, how he did. Maybe that gave it away with how short the video is. Yes, Ashley, it is. It's going to be another live tonight, hopefully like now. I don't know if John is posting it. But I mean, could you guys imagine an 18-year-old boy who literally lived his whole life with technology? He was beating Mario Kart when he was like 3 years old. Being able to sit on a plane with no electronics, no entertainment at all, just literally sitting there with his thoughts. He can look at the plane flying across the screen, and he can look out the window. That's basically it. We did give him some challenges as well. I'll explain it all on the live when I'm reacting. But if you don't want my reaction to it as well, you can go to the shorts channel. We're going to post it on there and all of our social media, so you can see the entirety of just the video that he did. I'm waiting for John saying that he has posted it. Once he posts it and gets that redirect in, then we will redirect all of you who want to watch it over there. All right. So all of you guys, there's like a little play button at the bottom. That is I don't even know what it's called. Autoplay, I think it's called. So that will automatically shoot you over to Future said, be patient, Peter. It's been 5 days. I've been patient. And this was supposed to be done like 10 hours ago, but whatever. We're here now. Okay. We're here now. I'm doing the best I can. John's doing the best he can. Yes, it definitely meant something different. Me too. When he first said that to me, I was like, whoa, time out. How are you using that phrase? We'll talk about that as well. He's asking me what time. I'm like, now. Give him grace. We're giving plenty of grace. We're working on our patience and our grace giving. All right. He says redirect is set. What time? All right. The redirect is set. Oh, no, that's all right. It's set at 5:30. I'm not waiting till 5:30 to play it. I am going to end this live now. We're going to go live immediately over there. So everybody meet me over there. As soon as this stream ends, we are going to start the next stream within 5 minutes. I know you asked EDB what interests people in a case. For me, it's the lawyers and the judge primarily. That's interesting. All right. That's it. We're heading out of this one. Hit that like button, subscribe, follow. We'll see you on the next one, which is going to be very soon. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok And don't forget to check out the Lawyer You Know podcast with new seasons dropping every quarter. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, the Lawyer You Know.